this backdrop, this standby agreement with the IMF, it's a good news, a good signal. What does it signal to the world about bringing funds to Egypt?
Well, good morning, everyone. And at the outset, I would like to say that it's not just that we are focusing on the immediate impacts of COVID, but we're actually looking forward. And that is very important because countries post-COVID are going to be distinguished by how much effort they put in trying to implement structural reforms that help put the economy on a path for more employment and more inclusive growth. So this is something that we have been able to do pre-COVID. We had concluded a very successful reform program by summer of 2019, and that has allowed us to enter into this crisis with a very good fiscal as well as foreign exchange position. And the government during the crisis has taken very important steps and policies, both on the monetary side, the fiscal side, but also more importantly, when it comes to structural reforms related to widening the social safety net, mitigating the impact on informal employment, creating also women-specific policies related to COVID. So there's so much that has happened, and what we want to do going forward is build on that in order to help not just rebuild the economy, but really reshape it.
Mm-hmm. Minister, you say you want to build on that. So let's flesh this out a bit more in terms of the kinds of targets you've set yourself for this year and beyond. Have you been able to secure some of the financing? I mean, we know that you have been able to do that. What else is in the pipeline in terms of that financing?
So it's, I used to work in the IMF before, and something that is very important, and I'm sure that all of you cover, any IMF program has to be fully financed, and that's where other multilateral and bilateral partners of development come in. In the case of other finances, and that is whether we're talking about the African Development Bank, we're talking about JICA, the French, the World Bank, etc. What we have been working on in the Ministry of International Cooperation is to make sure that the Sustainable Development Goals are not overlooked in the midst of all of this. So you will find that we have created a multi-donor platform for very specific sectors that will help actually push the economy forward. That includes electricity, transportation, the health sector, given the focus globally now on that and also nationally. We also have not only help or support to the sovereign, but also to the private sector through credit lines to Egyptian banks that are availed through the EBRD and the EIB. So it's really a multi-dimensional and a multi-sectoral effort to create more impetus into sectors which are going to help the economy. So for instance, when I talk about electricity, Egypt has just received 2 awards from EBRD, one in terms of sustainable energy, the other one in terms of gender. When we come to solar and renewable, Egypt is the #1 in the Middle East. So we want to build on this. And that's why in the multi-donor platform, the energy strategy for 2035 is being pushed. These are very good opportunities where private-public partnerships can take place. Similarly, for transport, so when we are talking about expanding the metro lines, more connectivity, all of this is quite important for investments going forward. When we talk about the support to the private sector, it's not just the big companies, but also the small and medium enterprises, which are really going to be the engines of growth going forward, particularly given the global shock that we've seen.
Minister, we need to push you a little bit in terms of the timing. When will you have these funds on the books? And let's press you a little bit. How confident are you that you will get all the money that we just listed in terms of the multilateral agencies? When, Minister, and how much?
You know, it's very important to mention that Egypt has a very successful record with all our multilateral and bilateral development partners. we have been able to, push through with lots of programs and projects with them. We have already board dates set up with many of the items that you put on your screen. This is happening very soon. You will see in the press that they have been secured. The other thing which is important, I want to use this opportunity to mention it, we have created a new global partnerships narrative, which is people, projects, and purpose. And the idea here is that each and every project and each and every development partner that we just talked about comes under this umbrella. How many beneficiaries are going to be affected? What is the type of the project? Is it a PPP project? Is it the nature of its financing? And then third, purpose, which SDG does it really meet? All of these that were on your screen have been secured. We're in the final stages of finalizing it, and actually we have board dates for many of them already.
Minister, Egypt's net foreign currency reserves came through overnight, and it's near the lowest level now in 3 years. The Egyptian pound has been on a losing streak as well. To what extent is that a concern for you, and how much does it, how highly does it rank on your priority list at the moment of things to do?
I mean, I think for international reserves and foreign exchange, that is a discussion you can have with the central bank. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, Egypt is a country that has tremendous potential. Our reform story has spoken very well about the commitment of the government in the past. We are not new to shocks. We always have shown resilience. And I believe that, given our commitment to structural reforms, what we call the second wave of reforms, and these reforms focus on creating an enabling environment for the private sector, increasing productivity, creating more inclusion and focusing on sectors of priority. All of this is going to speak for itself going forward. We have not been only, sidetracked by COVID, but we have been looking really into details of how to create more jobs, create a more inclusive economy. And that is going to be very, very important to investors and for everyone who's following the Egypt story.